heyday may be over, but the mighty Wurlitzer lives on. This splendid example at the Gamonut State Cinema in Kilburn has been here since the cinema's glittering opening in 1937, at a time when a trip to the pictures was still a real night out.
Britain's super cinema is the Gamonut State at Kilburn, built to provide millions of Londoners and visitors from all over the world with the last word in luxurious entertainment. Inside the main entrance hall is the first wonder, a magnificent candelabra, a replica of the electrical fitting in the ballroom at Buckingham Palace. In the foyer, there is an iced water fountain. After 8 reels of Mae West, you can bring your boyfriend here to cool off. Here are the staff of this great cinema. It is their job to see that you reach your seat with the least possible delay and trouble. And they see that in every way you enjoy your pictures in the maximum degree of comfort. Now at last the culminating moment has arrived when this vast enterprise comes into the arena of popular entertainment. The first night, the gala premiere. So here's wishing luck for many years to come to the Gamonut State Kilburn.
Well, there may be many of you, like myself, who thought that the mighty Wurlitzer had disappeared along with those lovely picture palaces that we used to know. But as we shall see, there are still quite a few places that can claim a Wurlitzer in the house. The Gamonut State is one of these places, and waiting to meet me is the manager, Bill Weir.
And what a palatial cinema you've got.
Yes, more than one cinema now, an entertainment complex.
Oh,
Two
yes.
screens, ranging from pop concerts to light opera, even synagogue.
Really? So you've got it all here?
All here.
And you've got the most magnificent chandeliers. Are they
Yes,
from the...
they was the original chandeliers, yes, from 1937.
Now, I believe that that last foyer was based on a room in Buckingham Palace.
This is true, yes, one of the rooms in Buckingham Palace.
This is a beautiful staircase.
Yes, the marble here is originally imported from Italy.
Ah, because 3 architects designed this place,
This is
based on
true.
a sort of Italian Renaissance.
Quite, yes.
And we're about to see, aren't we? I'm excited, the Wurlitzer.
The mighty Wurlitzer, yes.
Well, Mr. Weir had decided that my first introduction to a Wurlitzer should come from a real expert on the subject. Mr. George Harrison, chairman of the British chapter of the American Theatre Organ Society. And with an evening film performance to prepare for, Mr. Weir left George and myself to take our seats in the upper circle. So that's the mighty Wurlitzer. How many concerts do your society hold in the Gamonut?
We're bound to hold 4 a year. We try and arrange more if we can.
Do you help to maintain the Wurlitzer in this cinema?
The society does,
Yeah.
or our members do.
Yes.
They help to maintain and tune. This is the original Wurlitzer. It's the largest in any cinema in the country.
And that was at the great opening of the Gamonut in 1937.
The spectacular opening you were referring to.
Yeah.
Yes, that's even when we had Gracie Fields here. That was something well to remember. As a lad, even as a church organ was an interest to me. And then when it came to accompany silent films, it really intrigued me. Then, with the coming of talking films, well, I was quite content to go to sleep during the film and wait for the interval to come round and hear the organ again. There were continuous programmes at that time.
If the Wurlitzer has so much to do with nostalgia, does that mean that all your members are middle-aged?
Oh, no, not at all. There's quite a young element creeping in today, and that is one of the good things coming from the competition which is now being run. And we're hoping that that will eventually produce some fine organists for the future.
Competition for a young organist to come
The young
forward, is
organist
it?
of the year, under 16.
Yes. Now, the Wurlitzer isn't only found in theatres and cinemas, but they can be found in people's private homes, can't they?
Indeed. Our genial secretary and her family, they have a Wurlitzer in their own home. Their son also has a Wurlitzer in his home.
A mighty Wurlitzer in somebody's living room? The temptation was too great. I went along to Tonawanda, the name of the house owned by Mr. and Mrs. Len Rawle.
Well, here we are. Come in.
Len, it's extraordinary. I never expected it quite like that.
Well, I hope you enjoy it.
Hello, Mrs. Ross. Where did you get it?
Well, this organ came from the Empire Theatre in Leicester Square, and we acquired it in 1960.
It's magnificent.
We were very lucky, I think, with the manager of the MGM Theatre in Leicester Square. He looked upon my interest in keeping the instrument in one piece very kindly, and so the people that were bidding for the instrument as a church organ and for scrap lost out, and I acquired the organ.
Can you play it for me so that you can take me back to that marvellous sound that I remember?
Sure, certainly. You'd like the traditional sort of sound?
Yeah, I think so. Dreamy, sort of gentle,
That's right,
very happy.
yes.
It makes you feel, I think.
Well, the organ can be extremely happy, I think.
Is it very difficult to play?
You can develop a technique for this as you can for so many other instruments, and that's a private study. But for most people, surprisingly, the instrument's extremely simple to play.
What about the effects?
Yes, all sorts of things that were put in these instruments to make them even more like a band rather than orchestra. They put effects like the snare drum and the bass drum, and in fact you can have a whale of a time with these. Tambourine is included in the instrument. So we have a set of cathedral chimes here. And we have a glockenspiel. Even a xylophone. And a vibraphone. Cymbals.
What about the neighbours? I've been wondering about the noise.
I think everyone worried about that. When we first came here, there was a lot of sort of comment as to how loud it was going to be. But the fact is that if you were 3 feet from the front door, you wouldn't hear it.
Really? It's sort of subdued in a way then, is it?
Well, the organ sound inside the organ chamber, which is behind that wall, is the same level here as it was in the theatre.
What I'd like to do as well, if you don't mind, is have a look at that other room with all the pipes in it.
Well, let's go inside.
So, Len, where we are now is a specially built room to house these pipes.
That's right.
Yeah. It's like a wonderful cavern. I can't believe it.
Well, it's very large, and it's the equivalent of 4 15-foot square rooms in an ordinary house. And it just houses all the pumps.
But what do you need all that number for that organ?
Well, for this particular instrument, yes.
Yeah. But it's very complex, isn't it?
There's a lot to it, but we're very happy to have it.
Explain some of these pipes to me then, would you?
Well, we have various families of pipes. Each one of these is a row, and each row has its own sound character, a flute or a reed sound. And as the pipes get shorter, the notes of that particular sound get higher. So these long ones and the ones around us are the very deep ones, and the smaller ones down here are the little whistling ones.
How on earth did you get all this into your house?
Well, it was a long job. It took 2 years, and we literally started at this end of the organ chamber, building a piece at a time, gradually filled the room up.
It's all very impressive, but surprisingly, it's not unique to Len and Tonawanda, as I discovered when I took Len's suggestion to visit his parents in their house, Wurlitzer Lodge, complete, of course, with their own Wurlitzer. During one of the regular meetings, I asked Mrs. Rawle Sr. if she'd ever imagined that one day she would have a Wurlitzer of her very own.
Not really, no. We've had it built this last 3 years. Up to now, it's been in the lounge here, and it was put in just for our own pleasure. But so many friends are interested, and we just seem to go from strength to strength now. We meet once a month here, and we try to keep together with good fellowship.
Hello and good evening, everybody, and the usual warm welcome to Wurlitzer Lodge, to another one of these super monthly concert evenings that we have here, sponsored by the London chapter of the American Theatre Organ Society. As usual, we've got a special treat for you, and tonight it's our very good friend from South Wales, Byron Jones. Thank you, Byron.
When you first had the idea of getting a cinema organ, where did you think you were going to actually put it in your house then?
Oh, well, back in the 20s, I could visualise the organ being put under the stairs because the fall of the pipes in any theatre organ installation would just fit under the stairs. But of course, as you've seen, the theatre organ is too big to put under the stairs, and a special room has had to be built.
Do you understand the workings of the cinema organ yourself?
Yes, I think we've learnt the hard way, you know. We've taken somewhere around about 42 instruments out of theatres.
But that's a major undertaking, isn't it?
Yes, but you have a wonderful group around you, as you can see, which help in every way.
If you hear of one going, you go and find out about it in order to try and preserve it, then, really.
Be sure that we can preserve it at all costs.
Oh, it was one of those things that came to you, a beautiful sound, this overall rich sound, and nowadays it's all built-in nostalgia, you know, it brings back the times, the wonderful times we used to have.
We had a cinema in High Wycombe, which is now pulled down. There's no Woolworths, unfortunately, and it was changed to the Odeon, and we had a Compton in there, and it didn't rise from the pit like the usual one. It was pulled on to the stage with a rope. That's right. But we couldn't see the rope. We didn't know how it was done.
The one in the Free Trade Hall, Manchester now, which was formerly in the Paramount Theatre there, occupied some 70 tons of shipping space.
Would you love to have a Wurlitzer in your house?
Well, I expect I would, really. I think that's all our dreams, really.
You know the man who invented the theatre organ was Welsh. Do you know much about him?
Not really, only of what we've read about him, because he died a number of years ago. But I understand his invention was unique in those days. And if he was alive today, he'd be very proud, I'm sure.
Well, the man himself was Robert Hope Jones, a church organ builder. He dreamt of an instrument that would accompany silent films in a more dramatic and orchestral fashion than the piano, an instrument that would incorporate effects as well as music into its repertoire. But cinema authorities in this country were just not interested, so he set off for America, where in 1910 his ideas were adopted by the Rudolf Wurlitzer Company, and soon manufacture began on the now famous instrument, which was at the time known as the Wurlitzer Hope Jones Unit Orchestra. The first of these arrived in England in 1925, and much later, at the height of their appeal, there was a total of 99 Wurlitzers playing away in cinemas and theatres throughout the country. Today, sadly, only 11 remain in their natural habitat. But the appreciation of the theatre organ is still as strong as ever amongst its societies both here and in America. In Britain, there's the Cinema Organ Society, the Theatre Organ Club, and the American Theatre Organ Society. Their total membership today runs well into the thousands and is expanding all the time. So what about the people who have played the Wurlitzers, still play the Wurlitzers in theatres and cinemas? I'm just going to go over here to meet two very famous players, Florence de Jong and Ina Baga, and find out what it's like from the performer's point of view. That tune you just played us, that was composed by your father, wasn't it, Florence?
Yes, called Baaga, Passing Thorns.
So you were a very musical family, is that true?
Yes, yes, on both sides.
You were 2 sisters, Ina, out of 4 sisters, and you were an act at one point, weren't you?
Quite right, yes. We were called Baga Tricks.
Florence, you were the first woman organist to ever play for the BBC.
Yes, I was. St George's Hall, and my producer was Alvar Liddell.
Ina, you took over from Reginald Dixon at Blackpool, didn't you?
Oh, yes. When he went to the Air Force, I took his job for 5 years, and I consider it was my war work. I worked extremely hard because the boys used to come in during the morning if it was raining for a dance session, and then I'd play the Sunday concerts, you know.
Do you think there's any difference in your response to the organ than any other instrument that you play?
Well, I did study the piano extensively. My father wanted me to be the concert artist when I was quite young, but I worked very hard and I got myself various diplomas for playing piano, but one day the organist from the local cinema fell ill. I was asked to join in, and bang went the concert platform. But I have never regretted it because it's a very colourful life.
Florence, I read a critic that said that you could outplay, outpedal, out-effect any other man in the country.
Very much. The New Gallery, I was the envy of all the organists in England. Woman, 21 years of age, taking over. It was the plum job of the profession, you see. And they saw it was such a success, they asked me to bring other organists, women organists in. I had Elsie Gonadas, also now a very famous organist, and 1 or 2 others. It was the start, you see, of the woman's lib, should we put it that way?
Put it that way, I would indeed. What was it like coming up slowly from the pit on the Wurlitzer, Ina?
Oh, it was rather fascinating, you know. You could fill your audience and then you'd get your applause. But at the Tivoli, I had some awkward moments because they had an experimental lift there, and it was always fusing. I was stuck up in front of the screen until the projectionist had to come all the way from the box and wind me down. So I'd play, I'm sitting on top of the world, got a huge... But that happened quite frequently. They have been known to go wrong, these lifts, you know.
Wood Green, Saturday night, packed house. I'm coming down, and it went, well, they told me after, it went off the cog wheel. So I was like that. I had the presence of mind to press the button to stop it. And I was left hanging like that on the side. You can imagine the panic. The doorman with huge ladders. I was dragged off the organ. That was the end of Wood Green evening.
What do you think are some of the tunes that actually make people respond the most to on a Wurlitzer?
Well, I should think mostly the tibia stop.
The tibia, now tell me what that means.
The tibia stop is the most gorgeous, divine stop the Wurlitzer ever created. It's like the beautiful Vox Humana. And when you play a love song, I used to play as I was a very young girl those days, you see, and I would look in the audience, I'd look at a nice young man, and then I would play something like The Man I Love on this beautiful tibia stop. But he was looking at the picture, not me.
And now you're going to end our program for us with a rousing chorus to prove, if proof is needed, that the Wurlitzer is still alive and kicking.